Mayor, please address the flag. Pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. I thank you for that. So if you'll call roll.
Good afternoon. Directors, when you call your name, please indicate your presence. Director Bullhan.
Here.
Ross, absent. Harris, absent. Hume,
Here.
Kozlowski,
Here.
Teeter.
Here.
Bang, absent. Vice Chair Baines,
Present.
Vice Chair Lozano, absent. Chair Villegas.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. To that. All right. Robert, do we have any written communication or any request to speak?
There's no public comment.
And at the moment, that takes us then to disclosures. So this, before that, is there any, well, no, we'll just jump right into consent, right? Don't need to read.
If no directors have anything to disclose, we can go straight to consent.
And I think it's fair to say nobody has anything to disclose, so we'll move on to consent. That's item 1, and that's the minutes from the November 7th meeting. Everybody's had the opportunity to read them. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion?
Can we confirm there's no public?
Sure. There's no public comment on this item.
Okay, keeping it straight. No comment on that, no public comment on it. So we have a motion to approve the minutes with a second by,
I'll second it.
all right, second by Wilhan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to abstain since I wasn't at that meeting.
Fair enough. Okay, with one abstention, otherwise the motion carries. With that, item number 2 is the evaluating and prioritizing greenfield development in the region's long-range planning. So Clint, that's yours.
Yeah,
Kick
good
off.
morning. So if you recall in the lead up back in June to adopting the land use assumptions for the 2025 blueprint, we had a pretty robust discussion about the role the original 2004 blueprint plays in kind of continuing to guide the kind of regional development in the region, how it informs the long range plan updates, and specifically to greenfield development. What does that original blueprint mean for those greenfields that were in it that are relying on the principles of smart growth? What does that mean in the context of the MTPSES, the 2025 blueprint update, and SB 375 targets? In addition to adopting the land use assumptions in June, the board also adopted a series of statements of commitment to the original blueprint, stating that yes, this still informs our long-range planning. It informs the vision of the MTPSES. These 7 principles still kind of serve as a North Star for development in the region. The board also asked that we go back on 2 additional bullets and consider additional, like what analysis can we do on green zones to inform future plan updates, to look at how they could actually help us with our achieving our greenhouse gas targets, as well as a second bullet that to take those that are really high performing, maybe lean in on helping them secure future funding. So we committed to look at that, come back before the end of the year with a recommendation. That's what we're here with today. Last month we had a presentation with the Air District to talk just kind of about the way greenfields fit in the context, the way they interact with 375 and kind of the challenges and opportunities there. This month we've got a recommendation in front of you to request that the board direct staff to incorporate this language into the 2025 blueprint and the statements of commitment that you've already said got to be part of this next plan update. And that language is that SACOG shall seek input during preparation of the next comprehensive MTPSES update to determine which developing communities, greenfields synonymous in this case, can most effectively assist the region in achieving its greenhouse gas and vehicle miles traveled reduction goals, and prioritize such areas when preparing the land use scenario. SACOG will work with its partner agencies prior to the next update cycle to determine how greenhouse gas VMT reductions in developing communities will be analyzed for the purposes of this prioritization. So that is the one bullet that staff is recommending we carry forward. We did say the one change we made to that is the next comprehensive update. If you recall, the next update is going to be a very light update in 2027. So the next comprehensive would be in 2031. We would not wait to start this analysis until that plan. This is something that we could start in the next 1 to 2 years so that we can really start processing them outside of that kind of the very rapid fire clock that you're on right now when it gets into plan adoption. So this would be something we would start in the next 1 to 2 years, report back to the board, have discussions, and then this would be something that would absolutely inform future plan updates. So that would be the recommendation. That second bullet on taking the next step to then lean in on these, we're not recommending that at the moment. One, until we do this analysis and we can kind of see what capacity that would take to complete all that. And then it's a ways down the line. And so having the board make decisions today that we're going to use this and we're going to lean in on those projects, that might be a decision to make down the line. So that's where we're at with the recommendation today, but open it up for your discussion, questions.
All right, well, very good, very succinct. I think it reflects in large part what was discussed about in a very spirited conversation a couple times. So we don't have any slips to speak. Did you want to make a comment to begin with?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. I just want to, first of all, thank my colleagues for the robust discussion as you characterized it, that we had around this matter. And I want to thank staff for their thoughtful analysis of the proposal and coming back with what I think is a good compromise that keeps it front of mind without committing necessarily to something that's infeasible. And then the last thing I'll say is that the executive director and I cannot travel on the same plane together at this point. But other than that, we're good.
Wait a minute, no. Just be a safe.
That's exactly. So if one plane goes down, one of us is here to remember what wasn't said in this document.
Because nobody else is going to remember at this table. That's awesome. All right, well, very good. Thank you for that. I'm glad we were able to find language that I think the committee agreed to consider and move forward to the full board for further consideration. So are there any other comments or questions on what we are recommending to the board for consideration in the original statement of commitments?
I apologize. One final thing, if I may be so bold, I would suggest that this bullet point be inserted as new bullet point number 8, so that when they read number 7 is developing communities, number 8 is developing communities. Then we move on to development in centers and corridors.
That's good. Any issues with that? The numbering convention, traditional? Fair enough. Okay, no slips to speak on it.
There's no public comment on this item.
Comment, and this is an action item for us to send direct staff to recommend this to the full board. So would you like to make a motion?
I would make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion on the table and a second by
Second.
Baines. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion, congratulations, moves unanimously to the board for consideration. Then we move on to item 3, which is the local agency planning efforts, City of Auburn Domes infill area.
Great. Well, I'm covering for my colleague Greg Chu. I'm Garrett Balrosa with SACOG staff. I manage the Green Means Go program. We have a long-standing series we bring to this committee where we find a local jurisdiction project or idea or concept that they've been working on. We bring it to you, and the idea is for you to learn about it, to understand what's working in that community, maybe what's not, and if there might be some lessons learned for your own community. So very pleased to be joined remote by the City of Auburn today. You might recall last year, this committee heard about some policy work they were doing on form-based code, which they thought would help sort of activate some infill opportunities. Today, we're going to hear from Jonathan Wright, who's double booked, so he might have to drop off in a little bit, but also from the project team at AECOM about a specific site itself, the Dome site in Auburn, a very large site where they think there's a potential to do some revitalization, and that effort has been funded by Green Means Go. So I know you have to drop off, Jonathan, so I'll stop there and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, good afternoon. Jonathan Wright, Community and Economic Development Director, City of Auburn. True, we met about a year ago talking about the form-based code, and we've been doing a lot of projects centered around infill. Last year, I explained to you that the city is pretty much kind of built and committed with surroundings by the county as they've developed around our border, making things very difficult for us to annex and grow. So we've really started focusing internally and looking how we can get the highest and best use out of every property. The conversation with the county started about 3 years ago. They invited us over and said, you know, we have this property. We are making new facilities other places, and we anticipate, you know, looking at other ideas for what the 17-acre property could be in the future. They said, so what are your thoughts? And of course, the first thing I thought was Costco. But we started looking at the location with the transit hub right there, this proximity to everything, which Ashley will go into from AECOM. It became really clear this is an ideal site for putting some significant amount of housing. Right now, 15 units per acre is our max. We are in a general plan update, so this will be kind of a unique thing that will be folded into our general plan. And we are looking to meet the SACOG's goal and the region's goal of 30 units per acre on this site. So I really think it's viable. We do have the domes building there that is the house of the county supervisors right now. Whether that stays or goes will be a policy decision on their end. But we're working around every concept we can there. And yeah, we're looking forward to what the future holds. The question always comes up, who's the one that's going to actually implement this? It's going to be the city or the county. It could be either of us. We have a great relationship. They've already put into some work before we got involved in this to look at housing on the site. So they're aligned in our goals and what we're trying to do. So we're excited. The end of this thing will be a streamlined process for a developer to get in there and make best use of that property as the community and the stakeholders see fit. So Ashley, if you want to go ahead and start your PowerPoint up.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Nice to meet you all. I'm going to share my, I am trying to share my screen. It says that someone has to allow it. So someone may have to change a setting for me to share my screen unless someone wants to present the slides.
They'll make that setting for you
Okay,
right now.
thanks.
You should be good now.
Okay, here we go. Perfect. I see it. All right. So today we'll just share some high-level information, starting with introducing the project, share some existing conditions, information that we've put together, some development trends and prototypes and feasibility studies that we've been starting, and then our initial design concept methods. So just as an overview, we are looking at studying transit-oriented mixed-use infill at this site. It's located at Nevada Street and Fulweiler Avenue, which I'll show a map in a couple of slides. As you know, it's part of the Green Means Go project, and this is information that we've been also sharing with the stakeholders so they have the context on SACOG's involvement with the project. So project objectives are looking at to accelerate this type of infill housing and at varying affordability levels, maximizing the city's limited land area by creating a model for this site, but then also potential other sites in the city. And then we'll be preparing a master plan to study potential development scenarios and then related bicycle and pedestrian improvements around the site. Jonathan mentioned the existing maximum density. We are looking at a density of around 30 dwelling units an acre as a baseline. And then project schedule. So we've done some existing conditions. We've done opportunities and constraints and some initial designs. We are almost done with our stakeholder discussions and bicycle and pedestrian improvements. And then going into the new year, we will be starting to think about a vision and then refining the concepts that we've been talking through, and then coming up with a draft of the plan and starting our CEQA work. So we will be doing the CEQA approvals and process for the project as well. So we'll go probably through next summer into the fall. So some existing conditions. This is the site. It currently has 5 structures and a good amount of surface parking. It's about, in its entirety, a 17-acre site. And the area on the bottom left is our focus area for development. The buildings on the other portion of the site are existing county buildings that aren't going anywhere. For example, this is the county library, library, Board of Ed building. There's 2 access points on Fulweiler along the south and Nevada along the west. There's also a pedestrian access to the middle school right here through a gated path. The building footprints on the developed area that we're looking at are relatively small with a lot of open space and, as I mentioned, parking. And then we did go through and confirm that all of the required utilities that would be needed could support the type of development we're studying. And just to give you a sense of the topography, there is a significant variation going from west to east, especially along the southern portion. There's about a 26-foot change in grade So that comes into play when we're looking at our siting test fits, just to give you a sense of the topography there. So for open spaces, there is a theater on the site, the Auburn Garden Theater. It's an open space. There's a lot of mature, healthy trees around that theater, and then also along the southern and western property edges. There is the Auburn District Cemetery across the street to the south, which also does get used for recreation, light recreation of mainly workers in the current buildings who go out on their lunchtime walks. And then there, in the rear here, there's a significant mature tree buffer between the site and the middle school. Excuse me. So just to give you a sense of land use, there's a range of land uses around the site. It is nearby to grocery stores, the post office, and lots of retail and services. There have been some recent apartment developments, like this one, Palm Terrace to the north. There's also a potential future light industrial development to the southwest that's about 14 acres. The potential jobs within walking distance to the site. And street network and amenities. So one thing that we're looking at is walking distance to the city's downtown and Old Town historic districts, and then to other main commercial uses as well along Nevada and in those town centers. So there is regional vehicular transportation along the 49, the State Route 49 here, and then along the I-80. And it is about a short, a 3-minute drive to both old and downtown historic districts. And this just gives you a sense of what those roadways look like. So one of the reasons why this site is because of public transit. So it's right across catty corner to Auburn Station. So Capitol Corridor connects the site to Sacramento, Emeryville, Oakland, San Jose. There's also 6 bus routes that service the site through Placer County Transit and Nevada County Transit, going to Sierra College, Roseville, Sacramento, and then up north to Grass Valley and Nevada City. Auburn Transit itself operates an on-demand rideshare service, and then coordination happens with Placer County Transportation Planning Authority. So for walkability, it is currently, there are currently sidewalks for walkability along both of the project site boundaries, and there is a signalized cross to Auburn Station. There are no sidewalks along the cemetery. That's unlikely to change. There's a small gap in the sidewalks along the western side of Nevada. And one thing that limits crossing is there's no other protected crosswalk on Nevada Street until you get up north past the project site. And then one thing that we are looking at is that there are some lower speed and lower volume roadways for alternative connections, that some of them do lack sidewalk and bicycle facilities. So that's what we're looking at making recommendations for. And this just gives you a sense of some nearby destinations, how close they are for bike and walkability, and then existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Okay, so moving to development trends, and I'm assuming I'll just go through and any questions at the end, but if not, feel free to jump in. So we do look at multifamily real estate trends to get a sense of comparables. So looking at Auburn, 50% of multifamily units in Auburn are currently rent restricted affordable housing. And since 2010, about over 200 units have been built, and they have been all affordable or senior housing. And looking at comps in Auburn and Roseville and Rockland, They tend to range between like 200 to 400 units, and density is around 12 to 25 units an acre. And then comparing Auburn to the county, the market rate multifamily has yielded lower rents in Auburn relative to the county, but there has been stronger growth rate in Placer County. So that does indicate an appetite for multifamily. And then just looking at vacancy rates are pretty comparable. So one thing we do as a part of our study is look at the financial feasibility of the different scenarios that we're considering. So our economists did some pro forma feasibility testing for the scenarios. And so it basically simulates economic conditions that developers consider on whether they decide to move forward with a project, and looking at the residual land value and determining if that land value is positive, then it's high enough to pay for the land at the current market rate, and the project is considered financially feasible. So looking at the two prototypes that I'll share on the next couple of slides, both scenarios, when tested, were financially feasible. The scenarios are pretty similar as far as density. They're just over 30 units an acre, with about 300 parking spaces. Currently, we're considering those parking spaces to be mostly at grade, but all scenarios are still open for consideration. And then when we look at the topography, it really winnows down the buildable land area that we're looking at to be about just around 7.8 acres. So the table on the right has a lot of numbers. I know it's really dense, but just wanted to kind of lay out all the information that we're looking at. We have two scenarios. One is 3-story stacked flat apartments that are rentals. And then the second story is 3 to 4-story apartments for rent, and then townhomes. And it's the 3 to 4-story apartments to balance the lower density of the townhomes. So this is just a kind of detailed breakdown of the physical attributes of the buildings, the breakdown of unit types, and parking. And then at the bottom is all of the calculations for the land value and financial feasibility. So just a few key findings here to keep in mind for the feasibility is that they are positive and marginally feasible results for both scenarios. So that just means that they're sensitive to input. So construction costs change, funding sources, all of those are variables. And then we determined that the residual land value ranges from about $8 to $11 per square foot, but it could vary depending on those factors. And also that this site really doesn't have any clear comparables in the area because it is at a higher density than what has been built in the past. And we did use standard estimates for developer returns, interest rates, and cap rates. And assuming that the rates are lower than the pandemic-induced rates, assuming it'll return to pre-pandemic rates. So the scenarios do become infeasible with the variations in construction costs and cap rates. Also, we're looking currently at lower parking ratios than what is currently allowed. So just some things to keep in mind, for us to keep in mind for everyone as we're kind of going forward and refining the scenarios. Okay, the last few slides here are on the typologies that we're looking at. The first on the left represents the 3 to 4 unit apartments. And we're looking at 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And those are all rentals. And then on the right is the townhomes. We are considering that these would have tuck under parking, not at grade, and would be mainly larger unit sizes with 3 bedrooms. We are currently thinking that maybe this would be a phased development approach. So on the the west side here is about 5 acres. That could be a first phase and then a second phase on the southeast corner here. And all of this is still, we're considering all options, and everything is kind of open at this point. And then this is the last bit here, which is just an initial concept test fit, trying to figure out how this would all work on the site. The one on the left is the first scenario with all apartments. The one on the right is the version with the 20 townhomes in the southeast corner here, is where we're currently thinking for the townhomes. We are considering mixed use also for this site. So have, for right now, just a small retail restaurant use on the southwest corner, with the focus really being on getting in as much multi-unit housing as we can on this site. Of course, there would also be amenities. Where those are located and what exactly those are haven't been determined yet, but this just gives you kind of a rough idea on how the buildings themselves could fit on the site. All right, thank you. And I see Jonathan's still on. I think you probably have to go soon, but I'm sure open to answer any questions, fill in any gaps.
All right, so we do have one question. Go ahead.
So could you go back about 4 slides where you had the
Somebody talking?
slide financial comparison? Oh, that one right there. So your the window where we can see you guys is covering up the header of the 3rd column, and I missed somehow in the discussion why these 3 are the comparison. What was the controlling difference between these things to have these as options?
Yeah, so the first is trying to figure out what could work on site to meet the minimum of 30 dwelling units an acre. And so that's why we're thinking about the 3-story apartments, and then trying to think of a second scenario where you could have more of a blend of rental and for sale units, and then some larger units with different options for the townhome that would still meet the minimum 30 dwelling unit density without going too tall in the apartments to make up for that lower density with the townhomes.
Okay, I understand. Like I said, the header is covered up, so it
Yeah,
looks like
yeah.
there's 3 things, not 2 things.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
So the first scenario is just that one column, and the second scenario is 2 columns.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're comparable in cost. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. And then can you go to any one of the maps that shows the site?
Mm-hmm.
So that one would be perfect. Your
Okay.
Street crossing issue to get to the Auburn station.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've considered it, but you may want to consider a roundabout at that intersection right there in front of it, in order to slow the traffic and then also have an excuse to move the crosswalk away from the intersection.
Excuse me.
And
Yeah.
put it a little more mid-block. Just a suggestion. And then this is Mike Kozlowski from the city of Folsom. I happen to be an architect, and it breaks my heart that you're automatically deciding to get rid of those dome shells. An adaptive reuse would preserve an unusual bit of architecture for posterity.
We didn't say get rid of. We're just looking at scenarios.
None of your scenarios show an adaptive reuse of the domes themselves. So
That's why we say initial study.
is that even?
Yeah.
What is that building used for currently?
It's actually where the supervisors are housed.
Oh,
Government
gotcha.
center.
Okay.
Don't need
All
it.
right.
Go while you still can.
Raise the roof and make it apartments.
Yeah, if you have not been in the domes before, you should really experience it. It is very,
I did not know it existed. I'm going to definitely visit.
Truly Buckminster Fuller. Yeah.
yeah, you can taste the asbestos. It's great.
Well, maybe a park play structure that resembles the dome roof later on.
as your.
Thank you. That's all.
Certainly an option.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, Jonathan, Ashley, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions, anything else that staff wants to add to the presentation?
Just want to say another, I mean, I actually harken back to Yuba City, right? And the pro formas that we were able to help your staff with, looking at attached product and how you get that to pencil, right, elsewhere in the region. Feel free to chime in, Garrett. So obviously another Green Means Go funded effort here. And so I guess, is the conclusion here that this could pencil? Is that what I'm hearing from Ashley and Jonathan?
Yeah, this scenario could pencil.
Okay. Okay. Which is great to hear, and especially a for sale product as well, right? Which is tougher to do in some of the construction defect. And then just a reminder to all the board members and those of you that serve on the Mega Region Working Group, that is the Auburn Station, I think Ashley mentioned this, that should be, at the moment, hardly gets any service. It gets 1 or 2 a day, but with the third track and the efforts on Capitol Quarter, we should be up to serious, significant, frequent train service. This would be the end of the next interim phase here sometime in the near future. So that's a realistic transportation option right across the street.
And the bus service providers that we spoke to as well are also looking to increase headways and service.
Is that the line that the California Zephyr goes on?
It is.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. Our planning staff in Folsom, we have a number of projects like this that are going on greenfield sites south of Highway 50 right now that might be good examples of the economics of some similar density projects. You may want to reach out to Desmond Parrington at our planning department.
Great, thank
Community
you.
Development Department, excuse me.
Interesting. All right. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. Good luck. Library will be a part of it. We'll certainly be interested in tracking its progress and excited that it's part of the Green Means Go initiative that really sort of realizes some of the dreams that I think many had early on with the projects.
And for the record, there's no public comment on this item.
For the record, there's public comment. Very good. Thank you, Robert, for that. All right. Seeing nothing else, that's it, James? Very good. Okay, Jonathan, Ashley, thank you so much for your time and your presentation. That concludes, that's an informational item only. So with that, then we move to other matters. Are there any other comments or questions by any commissioners? I did want to bring, thank you, James, for the reminder. Sean, so this is officially your last? Well, we have yeah.
Well, it's because of, I wasn't even able to run it. We went to districting. And so Mark Boomgard and I live in the same district. Well, he's got 2 years left, so I'm done no matter what. So district can seem like a good idea at the time, but here we are.
Yeah,
So,
that's how it works.
yeah, that's how it works.
Constant change. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Working with you, and I enjoyed our trip to Denver to sort of enjoy what other municipalities are doing. So I got to know you a little bit better, but thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Service to your community. Yeah. All right. If there is nothing else, assuming there isn't, and there's nobody else here to speak, right?
Just a reminder that we're on for your board meeting at 9 a.m. on Thursday, December 19th. Director Harris, I'm hoping you'll come to that meeting. Good. On your calendar? Oh, good. We've got a number of outgoing board members. We want to honor their service. So it's a 9 a.m. start time. And thank you, Director Harris. It's been great working with you. And I so appreciate your passion for Yuba City, your ability to think outside the box, and your just implicit understanding of the benefit for Yuba City of working at a regional 6-county scale. Thank you.
Thank you.